Have I done this right for a change? Twitch looks good. How does YouTube look? YouTube looks awful. Why does it look awful? When I tested it and it was fine. Will we ever know? Probably not. Well, who is ready for those tariff refunds to go to the billionaires? Yeah, it's not going to us. Yay, the rich are getting richer at our expense. Fuck. Insert Henry Cavill gif. Fuck. Him as Geralt of Rivia. One of my favorite gifs to just throw out randomly to people. Someone asked me a question. Do you know if you left the stove on? Fuck. Are you gonna be on time to work? Fuck. Why is your dog pooping in the bathroom instead of outside? Fuck. It's my life. Jesus. I don't know if the mic caught that, but somebody is like drag racing outside my apartment. All right, so. Oh, and there's a kitty. Oh, there's a doggy. Doggy and kitty are friends. Okay, so let's stop fucking around. Okay, people? Listen, you guys are a distraction, and I'm frankly just fed up with your goddamn shenanigans. Okay? So that's a you problem. Oh, the stream on YouTube is better now. Yay! Okay. Oops, how do I... Okay, perfect. Oops, and I pressed the wrong thing. There we go. I'm a professional. So, look, there's CNN is obviously going through, hopefully, its last dying gasps as a corporate media institution and will be defunct very soon. No promises, but fingers crossed, because I cannot stand Zionist Jake Tapper. He is so awful. However, the big question here, what in the fuck is this at the top? This is their ad bar? How do I get rid of it? Can I get rid of it? Advertisement. No? Oh, it says no thanks. Can I get rid of it? I probably can't. It's going to take me to the ad. Ad options, learn more. No. No. No, just go away. Oh my god, this is exactly what I'm fucking talking about. Whatever. Okay. Plan emerges for $166 billion in tariff refunds. Don't hold your breath. So there's two parts to this. The first is that those tariff refunds, because Trump doesn't know what in the fuck he's doing, are going to go straight back to the billionaires. Two, the second part of it is Trump is in absolutely no hurry to do that. Think about this for a second, okay? You're a billionaire. You donated, how much did Musk donate? $250 million to his campaign? And other billionaires did the same, right? Bezos, Zuckerberg, they all donated upwards of $1 million. Disney, CBS, all these people. CBS, I think, had that lawsuit, or maybe that was ABC, where they got sued for $15 million, and they settled for $15 million. Excuse me. So imagine you do all of this, you do everything that Trump wants you to do, and he still says, no, actually, you know what, that tariff money, it's got to go to my presidential library, okay? I know I'm not allowed to start one until I'm out, but, you know, based on how much they're covering up this, I might be out soon, and also this, you never know, so therefore I'm starting the library now! Also, Don Jr., how's the crypto stocks doing? Good? Okay, fantastic. Yeah, send the money there. Send the money to crypto. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Don, shut up. Get the money to the crypto stocks. He doesn't care about what these billionaires do for him. No matter, and there's a funny story about that at the end of this. He will humiliate you no matter what. It's fucking hilarious. So look, let's look at what the process, quote unquote, is to get these refunds. System to process at least $166 billion in tariff refunds could be up and running in 45 days. Yeah, right. Is that also how long the Iran war will last? That's the alternative to a manual process that could take 4 million hours. Okay, well, that, I guess 45 days is better than 4 million hours. This feels like one of those questions like, would you rather have a penny every second or $1,000 every year? It feels like one of those questions. However, it's still anyone's guess as to when the more than 330,000 U.S. importers who paid the levies as part of President Donald Trump's aggressive trade agenda will see these funds. And keep in mind that these tariffs were never paid by foreign companies. Foreign governments. They were paid by the companies that were importing and then paid again by the people that took those imports. It was a tax on the businesses, which then passed it on to us. And now, assuming that this actually works out, the people like us who paid a shitload of money because the billionaires elected an absolute moron, a smooth brain dipshit, now they get repaid. We don't. Supreme Court struck down the bulk of the sweeping global tariffs. We already know all that. Updates are necessary to manage the unprecedented volume of refunds. Nintendo, Costco, FedEx, and thousands of other businesses sued the government in an effort to get tariff refunds, but that may not now be necessary. Instead, under the new system, importers would file declarations listing all the instances that they paid the now invalidated duties, Lord said. The government would verify that information to calculate the potential refund for importers. No idea when it'll hit, so it's a pretty short story, but again, all the money of the tariffs is not going back to the people. It's going back to the billionaires, which is the entire design of the system. This is always their goal. They never actually gave a shit about lowering prices because the tariffs did the exact opposite of that. And it goes more in depth because this reminded me of the PPP loans. It was all a scam. The PPP loans that the business people used were just a fraud. That's all they were. A few people got them. You know what? How's my lighting? I probably need to turn on the light. Is my ADD brain kicking in? Nope, my lighting's fine. A few actual people got them, and a very, I would guess, 99% of statistics are made up on the spot, so let me be the 1% that actually knows everything. Let's say 5% of the PPP loans that were sent out were actually legitimate and people gave them to their employees and to keep the business afloat rather than doing what this and more people did. So, for example, construction company CEO arrested for amassing a real estate empire through $4 million in fraudulently obtained COVID-19 relief loans. A Visalia construction company CEO was arrested today on a federal criminal complaint. This is on September 2025, so he'll probably get a pardon. Alleging that he fraudulently obtained more than 4 million taxpayer COVID relief funds. According to court documents between April and June of 2020, Joe Wayne Mackey, that doesn't sound like an immigrant name, of Visalia submitted fraudulent PPP loan application to 3 of his companies: Forcum, Mackey, General Contractor, JMW, blah, 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 blah. All 3 of these applications contained fraudulent numbers of employees and monthly payroll cost calculations, which caused a bank serving as a lending partner funding the COVID-19 relief through guaranteed small business loans to disperse $4 million, $82,550 in funds it otherwise would not have given. Man, you got to think about this. So he did this back in mid-2020, and then he's arrested. Does it have the date he was arrested? According to court documents in April, blah, 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 blah. All 3 of these loans, the cases, convicted. Well, I don't think it says here, but he does this in 2020 and then basically gets arrested sometime in 2025. You know that this guy supported Trump. So he's like, yeah, I'm really going to get away with it now. That's probably why he voted for Trump. He saw all the fraud and is like, yeah, it is fraud season, baby. So the Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny thing. Wabbit season, duck season. Wabbit season, duck season. It's just fraud season, good employee season. Fraud season, good employee season. Fraud season. And he had to think he was in the clear after 5 some years, and here he is getting arrested for it. Controlled the bank accounts. In October 2020, Mackey then pulled the funds out of the family member accounts to buy revenue-generating real estate acquisitions, such as office parks, luxury apartment complexes, from which he enriched himself further through rent payment from tenants. Jesus Christ. So you know this cocksucker raised rent on his tenants just because he could. Because that's the kind of evil that these rich people just naturally get. They don't get their money because they're hard workers, okay? Bezos, Musk, Zuckerberg, all of them, Trump, all of them got millions in loans from mommy and daddy, which none of the regular working class people can get, to start their businesses. So it's just fraud comes so easily to these people. Mackey continued making real estate investments and luxury good purchases traceable to PPP funds through at least 2023. Product of an investigation. Convicted Mackey faces a penalty of up to 30 years in prison and a $1 million fine. You got to think, I mean, the $1 million fine, obviously he can afford it. Sell some properties, but the 30 years, look, regardless of what you think, yeah, the guy should be punished, but he how old they say he is? He's 45. He would be 75 when he gets out. His life is gone. He's basically a senior at that point. He's past his senior years at that point. You have to have a pause for a second and think maybe 30 years is too long. Maybe there should be a rehabilitation program. And then even if he does spend all those 30 years, again, he comes out of jail at 75, and then what happens after that? He's not going to be able to reintegrate to society. There's not going to be people lining up to employ him afterwards. He's probably not even going to have a lot of family around to support him, so he's just going to end up broke and homeless on the street, which is very, very fitting. But the problem is, when you end up broke and homeless on the street, you become more of a drain on the system than a I don't know, what's the term? A benefactor of it? No, that's not the right term. Somebody that contributes to the country, to the economy. So there needs to be a serious discussion when it comes to imprisonment in this country. It's like, okay, fine, 30 years, whatever. I think that's too much. But at the same time, we need to, and this goes across the board because we have too many people that get sentenced on stupid-ass drug charges that should never be the case in the first place. They serve 5, 10, 20 years, and then they come out. I mean, imagine going to jail in 2000, like before. That's about before the big smartphone boom, right? And you come out, and now people are like doing live streams on the street as they pass him. Like, oh my God, look at this homeless person. Ugh, can't stand it. California, hello, do something about the homeless people. And he's like, what the fuck? I mean, it's got to be like a caveman seeing fire for this first time. Oh, what this? Oh, I have chicken I can cook. It's got to be mind-blowing. So we need to think about how we reintegrate people from prison into society. So going back to the broader theme here, the looting of the COVID relief program known as PPP was a massive fraud. Yet again, it was another massive giveaway from our taxpayer dollars to the rich. We subsidize these people who didn't need it, by the way. They bought Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Bentleys, and Teslas. Of course, lots of Teslas. Kudos to whoever wrote this article. That's a funny line to me. Men who participate in what prosecutors are calling the largest fraud in U.S. history, the theft of hundreds of billions of dollars in taxpayer money intended to help these harmed by the coronavirus pandemic, couldn't resist purchasing luxury automobiles, also mansions, private jet flights, and swanky vacations. And again, all of this is shit that's happening right now. Right? This was the green light for it. This was the rich and the greedy and the power hungry saying, okay, we got away with this with PPP. What if we run the government? And then again, Pete Hegseth spent like some 30 grand on to build a makeup studio next to his office. Kristi Noem had that $220 million trailer ad campaign, which was like 30 seconds to a minute. And then, of course, Kash Patel is using the private jet to fly everywhere. He's flying to Milan. He's going to drink with the hockey team. This is just fraud. It's fraudapalooza. They came into the riches by participating in what experts say is a theft of as much as $80 billion. I don't know if this is on top of the $90 billion, blah, 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 half taken by international fraudsters. I mean, look, the PPP loan was just piss poorly legislatively written. It was always going to be very subject to this kind of fraud because there was not enough scrutiny. There was very little oversight. I think the Republicans specifically took out oversight of this program. Gosh, I wonder why. And then there was very little enforcement options if fraud was detected, which is why so much of this shit took. That one guy took 4 years before he was caught, right? What I'm curious about is I don't think it describes. I think the next article does, but it talks about the wealth class of these people before they got this. Inflated total fraud amounts to a mind-boggling sum of taxpayer money that could rival the $579 billion in federal funds included in 10-year Huh? Even if the highest estimates are inflated, the total fraud in all COVID relief funds amounts to a mind-boggling sum of taxpayer money. Well, this is news to me. Federal funds included in President Joe Biden's massive 10-year infrastructure spending plan, according to prosecutors, government watchdogs, and private experts. So this is something I'd have to investigate. I was not aware. I mean, it makes sense that there would be some fraud in the infrastructure program because, again, same thing. The legislation was poorly written, and it didn't have a lot of oversight, and it didn't have a lot of teeth to enforce it. So it wouldn't surprise me, but $579 billion, that's a lot. And again, where's Nick Shirley on this, right? $579 billion? How much did this say it was? $80 billion? Where's Nick Shirley? Oh, I'm sorry. It's not Somalian immigrants. It's homeborn Americans and rich people that are stealing it. So it's okay, right, Nick? Right? It's okay? Medically stupid Nick Shirley? Nothing like this has ever happened before. Most of the losses are considered unrecoverable. I got to see this. I'm curious about this. Hold on. Takes me to a Rickroll screen. Dun, dun, you got Rickrolled. Oops. Okay, let's go back to this. Funding for Biden's infrastructure plan is still up in the air ahead of crucial tests. Wait a minute. Someone's working on infrastructural spend this weekend trying to answer the question. Experts say the current list of funding sources for funding of new spending relies on questionable math. Hold on. So this estimates are inflated. The total fraud in all COVID relief funds. Oh, I see. Okay. So what it's saying is the amount of fraud that could rival the total infrastructure program. So it's not saying there was fraud in the infrastructure program. It's saying that it could rival the entire amount of it. Okay, I misread that. Most of the losses are considered unrecoverable. Chance to staunch the bleeding. Still waiting to go out the door. Biden admin imposed new verification rules. I mean, yeah, he should have. This was... Jesus. Biden obviously had a lot more smart people than Trump on his cabinet, which is a very low bar, but he did, and even they were too stupid to have these verification rules. And it just goes back to the policy of Washington. They don't want these verification rules. They don't want this oversight because, frankly, it seems like all they want is just a massive spending spree, in which case they can use as much money as they want for whatever in the hell they want to use it for. Yeah, see, I don't... Small business sending the money out is best to send to people. Fraudsters, it's an invitation, right? Criminal methodology, depending on the program, swindle, blah, blah, blah. And the pensions work differently and could be far more lucrative, nearly 10 million. It doesn't go into the real demographics of the people that frauded the program, but I got another article that does. Inflated the numbers of employees are created. Well, I mean, here you go right here. Millions of borrowers inflated the numbers of employees are created companies out of whole cloth. So they already own companies. They already pay employees. So they are clearly not your average everyday Joe. They're not Joe the plumber. You know, these are clearly people of status, of some significant financial amounts. They probably own property. Lenders did little to verify the applications. This is so dumb. Lenders did little to verify the applications. Jesus Christ. Because Congress required the SBA, which ran the program, to issue explicit guidance in the interest of getting the money out fast. Lenders will be held harmless for borrowers' failure to comply with program criteria. Jesus. They literally are ringing the dinner bell for fraudsters. Unbelievable. And this was during Trump's regime, Trump 1.0. 100 billion. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, we're going to skip this. So, look. These are a lot of the billionaires. Actually, you know what? Let's do this one first. New PPP loan data reveals most of the $525 billion given out went to larger businesses and a few with Trump-Kushner ties. I need to take a sip of water because my mouth is dry with how shocked I am. Trump? Kushner? Part of a fraudulent PPP loan forgiveness program? No. You're trying to trick me. That's fake fucking news. More than half of the roughly $525 billion in loans doled out through November went to just 5%. Holy shit. So half of 525, so that's 267.5 billion went to only 5% of the recipients. Jesus. It is such a scam. While the SBA originally argued that 87% of loans went to smaller businesses, yeah, clearly that's bullshit. A majority of the total issued in loans were actually given to bigger businesses, and the new data also showed that only 28% of the total funds were used for loans for less than $150,000. 600 mostly larger companies, including Parents Boston Market, Uno Pizzeria, as well as law firms, churches. Fuck out of here. Why is a church being considered a company? This is such crap. A church is a religious organization. They should not be getting fucking tax breaks, especially when the church chooses to have political leanings one way or the other, and then tell their congregation and their flock of sheep of which way to look so that they can then sneak up behind them and steal their wallet. Professional staffing services received the maximum allowed under the program of $10 million. NBC News revealed that more than 25 loans valued at roughly $4 million went to businesses at properties owned and rented out by the Trump Organization, the family of President Trump's son-in-law and top advisor, Jared Kushner. Jesus. I mean, this is just... It's literally, he's in charge of the money, and then he's giving it to himself. This is exactly what the Emoluments Clause was designed to prevent. You were not supposed to be able to enrich yourself off the presidency, and these absolute lemming-brained MAGA will sit there and defend that. Not for anything rational, not for anything good, and they won't have any facts to back it up. They're just doing it because that is their reflex. And Trump has totally taken advantage of that. And every time they just reflexively defend him, you know, it's not a joke when he said he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it. And they would defend that. 15 of those properties said they kept one job at most or failed to report a number at all, reported NBC News, which is one of 11 news organizations, along with the Washington Post, that sued for the data's release, resulting in the Tuesday data dump. The new data also revealed that the parents of the White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany got $2 million for their Tampa-based roofing business, which was previously disclosed as a PPP recipient in July. Yeah, what a fucking surprise. Made to businesses that listed no name or showed potential data entry errors. Again, this is stupid. If anyone has ever had the experience, as I have, to be on food stamps or unemployment benefits or disability benefits or anything of that nature, if you had this show up in your forms, you ain't getting your benefits. You're not. And those benefits are infinitesimally, atomically smaller compared to this. Your average SNAP loan versus, let's say, unemployment. In California, it's $450 a week, right? $450 a week. That's 16, 17, 18, what, about $1,800 a month, roughly. $450 a week, $1,800 a month, roughly. And if you had anything on your form like this, you ain't getting $1,800. But why not give you $10 million? Why not give you $5 million? Why not give you what was the half of it? $200 billion. Why not? This whole argument of let's let the billionaires just ransack the treasury but keep poor people off food stamps and U.S. aid is completely fucking psychotic. So these are the kinds of, and then again, these billionaires are getting away with it because that is the culture that has been created. We have a clear two-tier justice system. Clemency to more than 1,600 people this year. Of course, about 1,200, 1,400 of those were the January 6 pedophiles and terrorists who then went on to reoffend and beat their wives, pull a gun on people, rape children. when you allow that kind of shit to go unpunished, it emboldens others. And then you're going to diminish the ability of prosecutors to punish that. Because they're not going to want to take on those cases. And they say, oh, what's the point? He's just going to pardon them. Why bother? And then they're going to get away with it. And these are not things that have no effect on society. Again, these are children being affected by these January 6 pedophiles that are getting the worst kind of harm you could imagine to them, second only to death. And Trump is enabling that kind of pedophilia. But he's in the Epstein file, so is that a surprise? Let's see. Second term, blah, 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 blah. Where's he talking? A former baseball star, Darryl Strawberry and others are staunch supporters of January 6 pedophiles and terrorists. Features several notable business people. Yeah, this was Changpeng Zhao, who, if I remember correct, he embezzled money or defrauded something on crypto. Let's see. Ross Ulbricht, Silk Road founder. Ross Ulbricht founded an online marketplace for illegal goods and services, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in sales, according to the FBI. In 2015, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for drug trafficking, money laundering, and computer hacking. So again, if you're rich, you'll get a pardon, and you can smuggle drugs. If you're poor and smuggling drugs, you get a Predator drone missile. Devin Archer and Jason Galanis, investors. Former business partners of Hunter Biden. That's funny. Granted clemency in March. In 2018, both were convicted of defrauding a Native American tribal entity. Archer maintained his innocence. Galanis pleaded guilty. Trump granted. This is so hilarious. Oh, that's why. Yeah. So they snitched on Hunter, so that's why he gave them clemency. Yep, that tracks. Which is exactly what he's trying to do with Maduro. He's trying to get Maduro to say, hey, listen, just tell them that 2020, you did it. 2020, you did it. You helped them. Not 2024. That's legitimate. I did that all on my own. No one helped me. But 2020, you helped Biden steal the election. Not 2024. Not 2024. Don't look at 2024, folks. Nothing sketchy there. All the terrorist threats that went to blue states and blue backgrounds that suppressed the vote, that's totally fine. But 2020, you need to convince everyone that you had a butt in it. Arthur Hayes and Samuel Reed, BitMEX founders. Trump pardoned the three founders of the BitMEX crypto exchange. Pleaded guilty to failing to maintain anti-money laundering programs. Trump qualified for that, or pardoned them, excuse me. This guy just looks shady. He looks like David Rubin fucked Ben Shapiro. God damn, these people are so goddamn weird looking. Trevor Milton, the founder of electric truck maker Nikola, pardoned, sentenced to 4 years in prison following convictions for securities fraud and wire fraud. Wow. For making misleading public statements about the company. Was convicted of fraud. Commuted. Nursing home operator. Pardoned in April after pleading guilty to tax crimes. Pardoned. I mean, the list goes on. Look at this. Look at how long this list goes. It's people that are frauds, that are cheaters, that are liars. And it just goes on and on and on. Yeah, this was the guy. Wealthiest of was Trump pardoned. Worth nearly $80 million, according to Forbes. The co-founder of crypto exchange Binance was pardoned in October after pleading guilty to violating the U.S. bank's anti-money laundering rules. And, by the way, money laundering is one of the biggest things that people involved in drug trafficking do. And yet, he gives this guy a pardon. He gave the former president of, God, was it Venezuela? Pardoned that guy, right? Even though he shuttled like the most amount of drugs in history into America. And here's what we have again. Everyone associated with Trump, just assume that the default is that they are criminals, pedophiles, or traffickers. Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner worked with real estate brothers today found guilty of raping at least 60 women. 60. Like, that's a lot. And this went on for God knows how long. 60 women, I don't think that exactly happened in one Epstein Island party, okay? Over a weekend. This happened over years, maybe even decades. Orenthal and Elon are big Trump supporters who were in the room on election night and attended White House parties. Again, they're sex perverts, of course, just like Andrew Tate, the pedophile sex trafficker. Some victims given drugs and taken across state lines before being physically restrained and sexually assaulted. Oren, Alon, and Tal Alexander were found guilty on all 10 counts, including conspiracy to commit sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. Luxury real estate moguls charged with serial rape partied with the Trump family during the president-elect's first term in office. One source claimed that the Alexanders definitely have ties to the Kushner family via their real estate empire, adding that the brothers were in the room when Trump was elected in 2016. Before their arrest, the high-flying trio were hailed as royalty in real estate circles, with sources telling the Daily Mail they were big Trump supporters and celebrated with Trump at his inauguration party. So, basically what this all comes down to is that the billionaire class, the Epstein class, are all just fucking loons. I mean, to think it's anything other than that, or to look at it as anything else, you'd have to be insane. To defend these people who do this kind of shit is just not feasible. There's no excuse for it. There's no justification for it. Hang on, let me get caught up on something here. Okay, good. And then we go into, so speaking of the Epstein class, foreign hacker compromised Epstein files held by the FBI. Source describes it as cyber criminal. Included combing through certain files pertaining to the Epstein investigation. I wonder what he was looking for. Nothing bad in the Epstein files, right? Previously, all we knew was there was some sort of breach. Foreign hacker compromised files relating to the FBI's investigation of the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein during a break-in. Although the source said the intrusion appeared to have been carried out by a cyber criminal rather than the foreign government, the incident underscores the file's potential intelligence value. Absolutely. That's another thing, is that everyone in the Epstein files is compromised. Even if they're not in government, if they're working in some kind of corporation, especially a global corporation, they're absolutely open to being blackmailed and compromised into doing something against the company's fiduciary responsibilities or just flat out illegal. They could also be a part of a... what's that called? Industrial espionage, too. They could be forced to spy on their own company and get confidential company information to a rival corporation. This is why the rule of law matters so much. Because if you have open season, open treason, open pedophile Epstein Island on everything, and people are allowed to get away with it, you are just opening the doors for there to be just jungle justice. And I promise you, as much money as the billionaires have, as secure as they think their bunkers are, the last thing the billionaires want is jungle justice from the American people, especially a population that has more guns per capita than any country on the planet. Further investigation turned up traces of unusual activity on the server, documents said, and the activity included combing through certain files pertaining to the Epstein investigation. Okay, now this second tweet is the funny part. Hacker stumbles across Epstein child abuse on FBI servers, gets disgusted, threatens to call the FBI. The FBI gets on video and is like, yes, we are the pedophiles. What's your point? That's what the FBI is saying here. The sources said Bureau officials diffused the situation by convincing the hacker that they actually were the FBI, in part by having the hacker join a video chat where they flashed their law enforcement credentials in front of a web camera. Yeah, because that shit can't be faked. Here's my ID. It makes me think of the rush hour thing, like, but they'll know it's fake. They'll know I'm not really LAPD. No, it's easy. Just flip it open, flip it close. Flip it open, flip it close. And gives it to Jackie Chan. He's like, it'll be fine, man. Just do it. Just get in there. Just do it. Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring would not have been possible without Richard Kahn, who managed Epstein's money for years, authorized payments, including payments to victims and survivors. I don't know about you, but this guy looks like he's got money. And if Epstein involved him, he probably came from money. The same way that Epstein did, the same way that Trump did. These are not poor people thrown into the mix just randomly. These are people targeted and picked out because they are vulnerable to compromise and because they align ideologically with the same objectives of Epstein. And you know that there is no way that this guy did not know what was going on. There is no way that this guy didn't know and didn't actively participate to see an easy score for himself. Forbes News. So the problem, as always, is the fucking billionaire class. Look at how much they're defrauding us. And you're telling me that you're pissed off over Somali daycares that were actually charged and arrested before you even knew it was a thing? This is the problem. Epstein. Epstein Musk. Elon Epstein, worth $839 billion, more than 3 times wealthier than the second richest person on Earth. So 839 divided by 3, let's just say 250. So the next closest person is worth what? $275 billion, and he's almost more than 3 times that. This is the problem. This man got rich off of the back of our taxpayer dollars. When no one wanted to fund Tesla and electric cars, he went to the federal government and he leached off of our taxpayer dollars to then go into Doge and cut USAID. I don't know if you've seen the John Oliver segment on the cutting of USAID, but these people are... There is no other term for it. These are Patrick Bateman, psychotic, evil people. To cheer on the deaths of these people overseas because they can no longer get medicine, because they can no longer get food, and then the food that we had, which fine, if you don't want it to go to them, give it back to America. They wouldn't even do that. They burned the fucking food before they gave it back to this country. The food that our taxpayers' dollars went to buy is gone. And now all the farmers, all the corporations that sell to USAID, that just like Musk, piggyback off of the government tit, off of Uncle Sam's milk cock, they don't get any more business either. And this man enriches himself off of that. And then, of course, we have... And they are so cowardly. They are so power hungry that they can't even fathom a world where they have to pay their fair share of taxes. So Howard Schultz, the billionaire former head of Starbucks, has moved to Miami after more than 4 decades in Seattle, bringing his family office with him. Think about this for a second. His employees barely even have enough money to buy their own company's product. But this Epstein-class pedophile supporter is able to have enough disposable income that he can, on the fly, in an instant, at the snap of a fingers, at the blink of an eye, at the beat of a heart, can move across a fucking continent from Seattle to Miami and buy another mansion there. And then he can have his house help, or whatever he wants to call them nowadays, do all the dirty work for him, selling the house, cleaning the house, moving the house, while he gets to luxury commute either via private jet back to Seattle, or he can just telecommute, which you wouldn't let anyone else in his company do, because people like this are the ones wanting in-office work. There is no future for America if we... I'm rattling my... There is no future for America. Hang on, let me see if I can do this. There is no future for America in which we don't rein in the billionaire class and bring them to heel. I just saw I spiked my audio. I gotta turn this down a little more. Hope I didn't blow out any eardrums there. Oops, where are we? Okay, so, and again, the problem with the billionaire class is only going up and up and up and up and up. It continues to grow. Forbes just released its latest annual ranking of global billionaires. The pace at which extreme wealth is rising is simply staggering. The wealth of global billionaires now reaches the equivalent of 17% of world GDP. So the top 0.0, not even the top 1%, the top 0.0001%. So this is what? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, tens of thousands. So the top 1/10,000th of a percent have 17% of the global GDP. And this, of course, is all thanks to Reagan, who helped the billionaires and crushed the unions. And then we had a little bit of levity with the billionaires growing more. And then in 2000, taking a tank. This is such horse shit here. I question this data absolutely, because the billionaires didn't lose shit. They just got bailed out by us after the global recession in 2008. So this kind of stuff occurs, and this war with Iran occurs because the billionaires can no longer control the narrative. And this has every inkling of false flag. Every inkling, right? Because this is what the billionaire Epstein class of Trump want. They want this false flag attack because that will help them declare emergency and cement power, strip our vote, put the military in our streets. This is what they want. This is the plan. It's all part of the plan. Hang on, I have these out of order. Yep, I had these out of order. Hold on. Okay, this one's correct. All right, so talking about the agenda and the narrative. One family, the right-wing Trump-aligned Ellisons, will soon control TikTok, CBS, CNN, HBO, Discovery Channel, BET, Cartoon Network, Comedy Central, DC Studios, Fandango, Miramax, MTV. Nickelodeon, Paramount, Pluto TV, Showtime, TBS, The CW, TNT, Warner Brothers, and more. This is oligarchy. This is also part of their plan. Take over all the media, control, because they've lost control of the narrative. This is how they regain it. Propaganda. Just shoving the billionaire cock of bullshit down your throat until you can't take it anymore and you just comply. That is their goal. Again, this is why they're buying up all these things. Because we're seeing all these increases that do not offset this. Not even remotely close in terms of spending. They can't control this because they need this to maintain their insane greedy wealth. They need these price increases. Even during the pandemic and the so-called CPI inflation, right, and the supply chain inflation, it was all horse shit. It was greed. These corporations are on the phone with each other saying, oh my God, you'll never believe it. Let's jack up prices. We can blame it on inflation, and no one will know the difference. Bust out that champagne and caviar because we're dining well tonight and every night for the rest of our lives. This is what these people do. They have to do this. They cannot maintain this constant uptick of revenue, of growth, of their own disgusting wealth. They have to do this, which is why they do this to distract you from this, which is why they allow this to distract you from this. Because when there is a terrorist attack, oh, it's the rally around the flag, right? We have to rally around the flag. And yet, they made this possible. 9/11 was possible because Bushy was too stupid to read his fucking PBR briefs. And PBR? No, hold on. PDB, sorry. I was thinking of beer. Presidential daily briefs. Wouldn't read them. And then it said, Bin Laden determined to attack within the United States. Now, 9/11 was definitely not a false flag attack, but it's one of those things kind of like where October 7th happened. It's like, did they just let it happen? And that, I feel, is what's happening here because Trump is intentionally refusing to act on intel and is refusing to share intel to prevent these very things. And now we're finding out that Russia is helping Iran with advanced drone attacks from its war in Ukraine. Or excuse me, Russia is sharing intel with Iran from their drone strikes in Ukraine to hit U.S. and Gulf nation targets in the Middle East. This is, and yet Trump said it's not a big deal because he can never talk bad about Putin, about little old Pooty. So, now is the part where I like to have a little bit of levity at the end of the show. Because, God, my audio is still loud. Because this is all very dark. A lot of bad shit is happening. So I like to try and find a fun little story that... What is this in the chat? That doesn't make sense. Okay, I'm ignoring that. I like to try to find a fun little story that I think can bring a little bit of a giggle. Yesterday it was a clip from the Dodo. Today It is a clip also from the dodo, but the dodos are humans because they're fucking stupid. President Trump's obsession with Florsheim shoes had led him to hand out the $145 loafers to J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Howard Lutnick, Sean Hannity, and Lindsey Graham, among many others. Does the president know that Florsheim parent company Waco Group is suing the Trump administration over tariffs? And these shoes don't even fit. This isn't the right picture. I can't find it. But these shoes are so poorly fitted. This guy didn't understand the assignment. Those ain't the right shoes. That does not look comfy. And there was another tweet. Yeah, Narco Rubio is hiding his feet because he knows how badly they fit. But there's a story about how Trump was just guessing their shoe size, and it's like, what are you, about a 5? You're a 5? 5.5? Here, take these. Make sure it's the woman's sizes. Okay, get out of here, Narco Rubio. Get out of here. And they don't fit. In December, Waco filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, asked the U.S. Court of International Trade to declare the president's unprecedented power grab illegal. The company also requested a refund with interest. Presumably, Trump wouldn't be handing out the Oxfords if he knew how vocal Florsheim has been against his tariffs, or maybe Trump just loves his Florsheims that much. I mean, again, this is so pathetic. Doesn't matter how much you lick the boot and shine the shoes with a toothbrush and clean his toilet with your tongue. These shoes don't fit. Trump said he can just eyeball it and size you up, and they clearly don't fit. Oh, I was showing the wrong thing. Wasn't showing. Okay, well, here you go. Let me go back. Yeah, this guy didn't this is why I said this guy doesn't understand the assignment. And he doesn't give a shit about her, clearly. Who is this Cindy McCain-looking hag? Like I said, I'll never get over... You can put in your entire life's work into the Trump regime. It's not going to matter. He doesn't care about you. He only cares about enriching himself. He doesn't even care about his sons. The only person he ever seemed to actually care about was Jeffrey Epstein. He wrote Epstein a birthday card. He went everywhere with him. He raped the same children as Epstein. I mean, that shows brotherly love, am I right? It doesn't matter what you do. To Trump, you're expendable. And MAGA, guess what? That includes you, darling.